When it's winter, most people blame low vitamin D status for the reason their body goes and gets things like colds or gets more illnesses during the winter. Now, I have a lot to say about why I think we're barking up the wrong tree when it comes to vitamin D, but I've recorded that in previous videos. And I want to talk to you about how we can actually use the gifts that winter gives us so that we can enhance our immune system's activation. Side note, I actually believe that much of what we call colds and flus and illness is actually a detoxification response by the body. Perhaps there is some foreign pathogen that may be invading a tissue, but more likely than not, there is just some intoxication in a tissue, and the body is doing things like increasing body temperature, mucus, and even edema, if you will, as a means of trying to help the body to flow and eliminate what's creating damage. So that's just a side note, but. What gifts do we have in winter? Well, first and foremost, it gets cold in winter. And have you ever had anybody tell you, or have you maybe told someone, perhaps your child, hey, it's cold outside, bundle up, put that coat on? Well, I don't know about you, but I've observed kids a lot. I'm a playground supervisor at my kids' school. And in the winter, kids love to strip off their coats. They'll naturally get hot. They naturally have more active brown adipose tissue to begin with. And that's going to tie into this discussion as well. But kids will take their coat off and they'll just run around. It might be snowy out, it just might be cold, and they're fine. And in fact, they are way more innately intelligent than we give them credit for. So instead of telling them, yelling at them to, hey, bundle up, put your coat on, because guess what? If kids get cold, they'll naturally go get their coat and put it on. They'll naturally get their gloves and put it on. But if we just let them do what their body innately wants to do when it's cold, and it's called these acute cold exposures. So for example, if we use ambient air acutely, or we can use cold showers, cold plunges, there's a lot of nuance. It doesn't have to be this really cold, really aggressive cold plunge. But if we get something that are called basically acute strategic cold exposures, we have a lot of benefits to the immune system. So cold is a controlled stressor when we use it in this way, and it activates the release of a specific chemical called norepinephrine. When norepinephrine is released, not only is that like beautiful for the brain and for focus, so kids come inside after the cold and they can really focus on activities, let's say their schoolwork. But the norepinephrine also causes a temporary release in specific immune cells, like natural killer cells, T cells, lymphocytes, things like that, that actually can patrol the body a bit more actively to search for things that might be invading or damaging tissue. So studies on cold water immersion in particular show that you'll get a definite boost in natural killer cell activity. So that's really good, not just for the immune system to survey what's going on in the body. It's also great as a anti-cancer support. Now, speaking about the whole brown adipose tissue, remember that's the fat that lives on our collarbones, lives on our upper back, and it's full of mitochondria. And it's designed to take fat from storage and burn it to make heat. Now, as I said before, kids just naturally have more active brown adipose tissue. And interestingly, we used to think that fat, all types of fat, it was just there. Like it didn't do anything. It was a storage organ. But fat is actually produces and releases various hormones and chemicals. Now, in particular with brown adipose tissue, it releases specific molecules called badokines, which are anti-inflammatory cytokines, if you will, or anti-inflammatory immune molecules. And these actually interact with the immune system to improve things like immune system activation. It can improve autoimmune conditions, and it can enhance immune regulation, right? So when the immune system goes into the quote unquote autoimmune category, that's when the immune system is over hyperly vigilant. So it can actually have almost like an adaptogenic effect on the immune system. Now, what about essentially the opposite? What about the heat that we could be exposed to if we were naturally around campfire? Or when I look at the long-term use of sauna in let's say, the Northern European countries. And is there any, research or any information to show that those acute heat stressors actually can benefit the immune system? Interestingly, before I knew anything about heat and heat stress or saunas, as soon as I felt symptoms coming on. And it started off when I was, with my first child, when I was coming down with something that's called mastitis, right, which is an infection of the milk ducts in the breast. And I initially went into that heat, into a hot shower as soon as I got that, because I felt like there was something clogged, like the milk duct was clogged. I naturally wanted to like get warm water on it to try to soften it. And what I found out is as I got that heat and I naturally helped my body heat up, it lessened the length of time that I had mastitis drastically, frankly. Because what I was doing is I was helping my body essentially heat up its body temperature in the way you would do with a fever, and that fever allows the body to do very similar things to the cold. That fever, or being in a sauna, for example, or in a hot shower, that stimulates a fever response or acts like a fever would, which actually makes the immune system work harder to fight against whatever it might be dealing with in terms of, for me, what was causing the mastitis. It enhances the activity of something called white blood cells, like lymphocytes and neutrophils. And essentially, when you enhance the activity of these white blood cells, they're more actively searching out where tissue damage and destruction may be occurring. So, heat can be a profound way to support the immune system in the winter. Um, there's also some basics with heat, right? For example, when you get hot, you improve circulation and blood flow, which is naturally beneficial for the immune system. You improve lymphatic flow, naturally beneficial for the immune system. And in particular with sauna use, there's studies that show that natural killer cell activity will also go up in the same way it did with acute cold exposures. Now, what else does winter give us? Well, again, going back to the whole vitamin D topic, low vitamin D, you gotta take massive supplementation of vitamin D in order to be healthy in the winter. I believe that melatonin is winter's hormone. Vitamin D is summer's hormone. And yes, it's a hormone, not a vitamin. So why is it that I think melatonin matters so much? And I truly think that the true deficiency, the true epidemic in terms of something being too low is melatonin for people. In the winter, we've got these longer nights. With longer nights comes more melatonin. And melatonin is amazing when it comes to supporting the immune system. So number one, you need that melatonin at night to go in to get the body into to go to sleep, but also to get into tissue repair in general. So you want to make sure that the body is producing that adequate pineal melatonin, so your body's clocks and even your organs clocks and everything can be operating at best. But that melatonin is a potent antioxidant. So if there is tissue damage going on at all, it will scavenge it up. And not only that, that melatonin, as it raises, it lowers inflammatory cytokines. And at the same time, it boosts anti-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin 10. So the result there with the more melatonin that we can make in the winter is less inflammation and a more balanced immune system. The melatonin also optimizes, or essentially almost like acts as an adaptogen for immune cells like the natural killer cells, macrophages, neutrophils, to make them more enhanced at their ability to seek out tissue damage, and destroy or eliminate whatever might be causing the damage. So, I mean, I hope you can see, right? Like we talk about low vitamin D and we say, oh, don't get cold in the winter because you're gonna catch a cold if you get cold. We don't consider melatonin as this superpower in the winter that we can take advantage of. And oftentimes we're not considering things like acute heat stress in the winter as another means of enhancing the immune system. And so I just want to bring to everyone's awareness that winter gives us gifts. If we use them correctly, we can optimize our body's ability to seek out what might be harming our tissues, help our body process and eliminate those, and to actually repair the body and repair the tissues even better so that when we come to springtime, our body is ready to be active, to be hunting, to be gathering, to be foraging, to be doing the things that we were designed to do come spring. So if you're interested in learning more about these strategies, like all the nuanced ways you can engage in cold plunge, even if you have nervous system dysregulation, even if you have low leptin, even if you have, potentially a huge fear of getting cold, Even if you have Raynaud's. Last year I had feedback on a participant who had Raynaud's and engaged in mild cold exposures. Raynaud's disappeared. And so if you're interested in learning more about the cold exposure and the nuances, about all the ways that we can engage with heat, and specifically this infrared portion that is really missing in our modern indoor environments because of the lighting situation and our lack of campfire, frankly. If you want to learn more about maximizing melatonin, if you want to learn more about how we can build in strategic scarcity in the winter, how we can change our workouts, how we can do restorative downtime, all of these things were designed to do in the winter in order to use winter as the true healing season that it really is. So if you want to learn more, click on the link in the description and get my Prep for Winter Challenge. It is going to be, basically 19 days of delivering these beautiful short email videos to your inbox where you can learn about the practical ways to engage with this information so you can build a pretty simple but effective winter routine so that you can make this your best winter yet. Look forward to seeing you in the challenge.